Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good, Brian. How are you?
I am wonderful. Another week, another podcast. I'm very excited. This always makes my week. I'm excited to talk about speed of purpose today for our listeners, our viewers out there. We thought we'd start off this Gapology Guys series with just really going through the book and making all the books that we have and just make sure that we sort of level set everyone around what Gapology, IMBAR, and now Speed of Purpose are really all about. So, love to for you to kick this off, Mark.
Well, I figured you'd want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs' speed of purpose. I I can't believe you left that out.
I know. Well,
Congrats
you know,
on being in the Super Bowl once again.
yeah. Well, I do have my light is turned red for the next 2 weeks in the background here. So, uh, yeah, no, we're excited here for sure. A lot of people here weren't totally confident they were going to be able to get there with how they performed throughout the season this year. You know, just barely scraping by, getting some lucky, field goals and things like that, block field goals, and but we're excited. The team seems to be running on all cylinders now. So yeah, we're very
Well, had
excited.
the Bills had a little more purpose, they could have won.
Yeah, maybe that was their problem. I don't know.
Yeah, when it comes down to like one catch or something, it
Yeah,
pretty
definitely.
significant.
Yeah, I had some calls earlier this week, and we all went around the room and introduced ourselves and everything, and most everybody was talking about where they're from and their football teams and all this kind of stuff. And I was the very last person, and I said, "You guys are all going to hate me." But I live in Kansas City and I'm a massive Chiefs fan. So, and I could just hear the boo and everything. So, but it's a fun time of year certainly, and we're excited for a possible three-peat action.
Yeah, but again, I would suggest a team with purpose.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me give you a couple things here. So, according to the Harvard Business Review, 80% of Americans don't have their dream job when they're surveyed. 80%. So that's a troubling statistic. And then if you go to Gallup's research, they report that 51% of American workers are disengaged.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. Those stats
Wow.
are insane.
So we wrote a book called Speed of Purpose because we found in our Gapology work that teams that had a purpose, in addition to executing Gapology, but teams that had a purpose outperformed the rest of the group. And so we went back into the research and did much more research and tried to fully understand what speed of purpose looked like, and we found it. So our studies showed that speed of purpose, meaning a team that had purpose, compared to a team that did not, were 2.8 times as productive. And we saw examples of teams that were 10 times as productive with purpose. So it could be much greater than the 2.8, but we didn't want to exaggerate it. So we wrote a book called Speed of Purpose about how to achieve 2.8 times um, the speed of, the productivity rate that you're currently achieving. And we created, similar to Gapology, a 3x3 framework where we had three drivers of purpose, and then for each of those three accelerators of purpose, and trying to capture what these teams that were outperforming the rest had, and it really came together beautifully well. So, what do you think?
Yeah. So one of the things I was writing down there. So when you were talking about the Gallup poll, I thought that was super interesting when I read it. So they were saying the 51% were actively disengaged. So just think about what that means. So, as an organization, we absolutely want our teams engaged in the things that they're doing, the things that we're paying them to do. And and really purpose is that, I think, that linchpin to connect people to the things that they do. And if we're not clear on our purpose, I don't think people really connect with why they are doing the things that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So purpose really adds meaning, to work. It's the why we do what we do. And work is no longer work when you have purpose. So it literally changes the relationship to work and therefore changes everything. And where we've seen it work best is when the purpose is simple and it's known by all. And what's happening in the remote work environment, which we've seen since COVID, is more disengagement, significantly more, and leaders having a difficult time to understand the engagement level of their team because they can't read the body language, they're not with them. It just changes everything. So, in today's world, a purpose for your organization, for your team, um, whatever you operate is more significant than ever, and it's critically important. And to your earlier point, what it does is it creates engagement. Purpose creates engagement, and engagement creates discretionary effort. You may want to write that one down.
Mhm.
That's a big deal, leaders. So purpose creates engagement, and engagement creates discretionary effort. And imagine discretionary effort and what that looks like. People are working harder, they're working longer, they care more. Work is not work, it's what they're driven by. Total, total game changing scenario when you have a clear and compelling purpose. So that's what we found. And we really came across it during our Gapology work. And we found that those top performers, in addition to closing gaps, had something else. And part of their gap closing methodology was to have purpose.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. The interesting thing that came to mind when you were talking about the work from home groups, right? The people working from home. Um, I feel like there's so many competing priorities anyway in our lives. And when we work in an office setting, some of those other outside competing priorities in our personal life are sort of blocked out. But when we work from home, a lot of that stuff sort of blends into our day. I work from home all the time, so I'm always here, and there are competing priorities. Other things, just family things or whatever, that tend to blend into our work life much, much more than if I was at the office. And purpose, because we have a super clear purpose, here at Gapology, helping leaders achieve their greatest potential, that drives everything that we do. So I can stay super focused. It really does connect me with everything that we do.
yeah, the simplicity of the purpose of Gapology, helping leaders achieve their greatest potential, is pretty amazing. Think about that and how that clarifies everything that we do. We have found organizations and teams that had purpose, but the purpose was so wordy and confusing or complex that it wasn't known by the team. We would ask the team, what's the purpose? They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know. So contrast that with a clear and compelling purpose that everyone knows. Absolutely changes everything. So as you develop your purpose, if you don't have one, it needs to be clear and compelling, and it needs to be for everyone.
Mhm.
Fair enough?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies have mission statements, certainly. And this is somewhat different. Mark, can you sort of walk us through how mission statements, that traditional mission statements that most companies have put into place, how that differs with purpose?
Well, mission statements can be this lengthy paragraph up on the wall. I was in an interview once, and the people that were interviewing me, the leaders of the company, happened to have, by chance, in the room we were in, their mission statement on the wall behind them. And I'm sitting facing them, but looking up at this mission statement on the wall. And I asked them to talk to me about it and to walk me through it, and they couldn't do it. So it didn't exist. If it's not known by all, forget it. It doesn't exist. So the simplicity of a clear and compelling purpose, helping leaders achieve their greatest potential, can be known by all who interact with Gapology, certainly by everyone that coaches in our sessions, and it is something to aspire to. What a great purpose. Helping people achieve their greatest potential is awesome. And you can tie every role to it. So you just have to think about that. So you may be saying right now, oh, we've already got a mission statement. Well, okay, that could be your purpose, but is it known by all? Brian and I have done a number of times an index card exercise where we are meeting with a team, and we hand the index card to everybody that's in attendance, and we have them write down the purpose. And oh boy, you learn a lot. You find out very quickly. So you as a leader can do the same exercise. If you think your purpose is clear, just spontaneously hand an index card, whatever, to everyone on the team and have them write down the purpose and see what you find. Is it clear? Is it not clear? You often know if it's clear simply by observing the behavior.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it
absolutely.
there or is it not?
Yeah, that's really the evidence of it, right? If you can
Yeah.
look to see how they're performing, does their performance connect with what the purpose is? That's sort of the evidence of their mindsets. Tying to Imbar that we talked about last week, their identity and their mindset. If that's not connecting to their behavior, there's a disconnect there somewhere. Same thing with purpose.
Yeah. So let me walk you through what this is all about. So it became a 3x3 framework, the same as Gapology. So we identified the three drivers of purpose, and that drove the 2.8 times productivity. And for each of those three, we were able to identify three accelerators. So similar to Gapology with the three gaps and then the three root solutions for each, we developed the same 3x3. And that 3x3 framework is very easy to understand and to memorize and to have leaders work with. So it was quite effective. And the drivers and the accelerators are what create the 2.8 times productivity. So the drivers are people. You have to tie your people. You have to wrap your people in purpose. Everyone needs to know it. Performance. You need to define the metrics, the measures that equal the purpose, in addition to the behaviors that create those metrics. And then an often missed piece is you need to ensure that the processes of the organization also reflect the purpose. We found that missing many times over. And so when those three drivers are in place with the accelerators, which I'll give you momentarily, you can bring this 2.8 times productivity or much more to life. I wouldn't limit yourself to the 2.8. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, yeah, that's just sort of the average, for the people that we measured. But the drivers, I think that's really the first thing, getting your mind wrapped around how do you create a clear and compelling purpose, and then wrap that around your people, your performance, and the processes of your organization. You're really working through that. Take your time with that. Sometimes that can be lengthy. Often people sort of stop with the people part of it. While that I think is probably the most important, but the other pieces, if they're missed, a lot of times that will create problems.
Yeah, they don't shore it up.
Right.
So for those of you taking notes, the first driver is people, and the accelerators are role, ROLE, rituals, and rhythm. So we found that those that were achieving the 2.8 times and beyond had defined the purpose for every role in the organization. Everybody had a part to play. So as a member of the team, I would know my role in delivering the purpose. I know the purpose, but I've been wrapped in it and I know my role. And that is a game changer. So the lowest level role in the organization was tied to the purpose, and the highest level role was tied to the purpose.
Yeah, no, I love that, Mark. So the whole role piece that is so critical. You really have to start there. You have to start with the interview process, getting the right people and build that purpose into those roles. The training that they get, that needs to be built in so that they feel that connection to the purpose. If they're not doing that right off the bat, I think a lot of organizations will really struggle with this.
Yeah, so that one we found to be big.
Yeah.
So when we call it a driver, people, and then the accelerator, the role tied to the purpose, it's huge.
Mhm.
And most organizations have not figured out that they need to tie every role to the purpose. They often will, even if they have a purpose, they'll connect the upper group with it, but not necessarily all the way down to the lowest level position, all the way through. And it totally matters. So please take a look at that and work on that one. We thought that one was huge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when we were first talking about this, how you were describing that, where it's not just the higher level people; it's everybody. Everybody from the IT people to the marketing people to the HR people. Everybody throughout the entire organization, every role needs to have this connected somehow.
And they're able to talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
And they do talk about it. It becomes, again, their reason for coming to work. Work's not work. So the next accelerator is rituals. So we found that the highly productive teams had rituals around the purpose. An example would be one team did standing ovations every day for those that best delivered the purpose. So everyone on the team knew that ritual was coming, so they worked to achieve that, and it really amplified the purpose. So they created rituals, whether it's your awards that are given for excellence throughout the month or the quarter or the year or even the day or the hour. Tie it to your purpose and make it a ritual that repeats itself. So the team is anticipating it, and it absolutely changes their relationship to work.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like one of the things that we always say is what you recognize gets repeated, right? So if you're not recognizing purpose, that behavior won't get repeated.
Well, and the other T-shirt you did was "We are what we celebrate,"
Oh, right. Right. Absolutely.
which exactly is this.
Yeah,
So
totally.
whatever you celebrate, whatever you reward, is who you are. So if you are the purpose, then it's all about that. And
Mhm.
it, again, it's very, very meaningful, and it brings the purpose to life.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
rituals bring it to life. They make it, wow, yeah, I'm part of this. It's very real.
Right. Yeah. It sort of takes it off that plaque on the wall, that emission statement a lot of times.
Yeah,
It makes it real.
yeah. Yeah. And then the third accelerator is rhythm. So we found that the leaders had a rhythm around the purpose. So they were predictable. They not only exemplified the purpose in their own behavior, which was a big deal, it wasn't just something they expected of others, but they had a rhythm, and they literally structured the day, the week, the month, the quarter around the purpose. And that just brought it home. And in that first driver, people, they created the purpose. Think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's already really bringing it to life in the organization. It's taking it beyond just kind of a conceptual thing and actually putting into place these different elements that can really create it.
Yeah, so that one's huge.
Mhm.
So the next driver was performance. So again, the highly productive teams had the accelerators of expectations, execution, and excellence. So under expectations, they had measured what execution of the purpose looked like. They knew what the metrics looked like when the purpose was in place. That was big because then they held the team accountable to that level of execution. So the metrics equaled the purpose. Think about this, how big that is. So you're sending out a report that shows everyone's performance, and you know where the purpose was executed because it's obvious by the expectations, the metrics. That made it real. That brought it that put it in front of everyone, and it showed you the difference between the behavior of many. So go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. This one's really critical, I think. So expectations, execution, and excellence, they're all tied together. So if you're not clear on your expectations, if your team doesn't know really what to do and how to do it, if they're not measured, if they're not, the whole behaviors and results element, if that's not clear, they're not going to execute. Right. And so if you don't build purpose around your expectations and your execution of those expectations, you're never going to achieve that excellence, which is that third driver. So that's really setting that bar where you believe excellence really is and holding your team accountable for that.
Yeah, and what we found was the top performers had gone out and observed their greatest uh, executors, the people that were delivering the purpose, so that they would fully understand what the expectation should look like. So they understood that, oh, wow, when we do the purpose, here's what we get. So they were connected with the number, whatever that is, that measured it with the purpose. And that changed everything. So that's the expectations piece. So consider that the metrics. The execution accelerator is the behavior that's equal to that metric. So that metric's a number potentially, most likely. But what's the behavior look like that gets us there? That's the execution side. So they were very clear on what execution, what behaviors equaled the expectation and therefore delivered the purpose. So that one became, to your point, equally as important and totally tied together, but you can't have just one or the other. You got to have both of them.
Right. Yeah. And here I think a lot of times leaders can get results that are not connected to their purpose. So they can do some shady things or do some things that, con customers into things, some of that kind of shady stuff. That stuff is not connected to the purpose. It takes you away from the purpose. And so a purpose-driven organization has to have the execution where it's actually connected to the things that you believe in.
Yeah, exactly. So the third accelerator that we found here was excellence. So the top performing leaders, the ones that were really executing the purpose and delivering these great results, were very clear on what excellence looked like in relation to the purpose. what it looked like from a metric standpoint, what it looked like from a behavioral standpoint, and that really became their reward system. So they expected excellence, and they would create mentors within the team that would go out and demonstrate excellence, so that the team could see it and they could become that. So these three accelerators, the expectations combined with the execution, which is the behaviors, and the excellence, understanding that fully, really delivered this driver of performance.
Yeah, when you were talking about mentors, I wrote that down. I'm like, yeah, these are the role models for the rest of the
Yeah.
team. The people that they look up to. With Gapology, one of the things that we do with organizations, we can certainly come in and train you on Gapology, but what we really love to do is create what we call Gapology ambassadors within your organization, where we spend some additional time with maybe they're your training group or HR group or subset of the leadership. And we spend time talking through some of this kind of stuff that they can really take Gapology and bring it to life. It's sort of that same thing where people can look up to somebody else that maybe has some additional skills or are connected to the purpose, whatever, where they can look at them as sort of that role model.
So, and you as a leader likely already have these people on the team and can identify them and see them. The difference would be your clarity around the purpose, and all the other pieces we've described will just amplify it dramatically. So the third driver is process. And we found that this one was often missed. So if your whole process isn't aligned with the purpose, so the customer comes in and everybody's fantastic, but the process is labor intensive and boring and frustrating, then you haven't delivered your purpose. So process becomes a significant part of delivering purpose. And the three drivers there, the three accelerators there, are structure, systems, and simplicity. So the first thing we saw was that the organizational structure of the top performing organizations delivering their purpose was designed to deliver the purpose. So step back from your org structure itself and take a look at it. So look at all the structures you put in place and make sure they are aligned with the purpose. And often that has not been thought of. The leaders that were delivering purpose sort of thought that it was all taken care of with that other stuff we've already talked about, but the structure can be significant. Anything to add on that one?
Not much on that one. I would just say look at the wording of your purpose here. So oftentimes in the organizations we worked with here, it's usually built around the customer. So if your structure isn't built to deliver purpose for your customer, then you might need to relook at your purpose, or relook at your structure, I should say.
Yeah,
I
take
think
a look at it,
yeah,
because
there's
it has to be there.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
systems piece, again, has been missing often. Picture this: the IT team didn't get invited to the purpose meeting. We didn't tell them about it. They're just the IT team. What do they need to know the purpose for? But son, I'm exaggerating, but obviously, if the systems of the organization don't align with the purpose won't come to life. It'll fall apart. And the IT team is critical, as an example, to delivering the purpose. So the systems that you've created for your organization have to be aligned with the purpose. Literally everything has to be aligned with the purpose. There's nothing that isn't aligned with the purpose. So you've got to look at the systems and say, does this deliver our purpose? Is it clear? We've seen so many great examples of this, and the difference between the drive-through at In-N-Out and the drive-through at McDonald's means McDonald's doesn't have a purpose or didn't figure out that the systems need to align with the purpose.
Yeah.
And In-N-Out figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's like a lot of the evidence that you don't have a purpose can really be in your systems if you're looking at it that way.
Yeah, and Chick-fil-A figured it out too, by the way.
Yeah.
Give them my phone number if you will. If McDonald's calls, make
Okay.
sure they know how to reach me,
Yeah, I will.
because I can change their alignment of purpose very quickly.
Okay.
So
Will do.
thank you for that. Um, and lastly is simplicity. This one again is rather deceptive. We found that the organizations that were achieving the 2.8 times productivity or higher had figured out simplicity, and they figured out the importance of it, and they carved simplicity into everything they did. Picture if you carve complexity into everything you do. That will often diminish the purpose because it's difficult to work with you. It's difficult to complete a transaction, whatever. Simplicity amplifies the purpose. It's a big deal. So you and I were shocked when we found this. It's like, oh God, simplicity is key to purpose. So you've got to work towards simplicity or your purpose isn't evident. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's part of like our whole thing, right? So helping leaders achieve their greatest potential is our purpose statement, but everything that we do, we try to look at it through the lens. So all of our processes, our systems, everything that we do, we try to keep it as simple as possible. And what I will be totally honest here, the minute that we try to complicate things, that's where we've sort of stumbled and had to take a step back and say, all right, let's relook at this here. So we experience this as well. So absolutely look at your simplicity, especially around systems and your people and all of that.
Yeah. So those are the drivers and the accelerators. That's the 3x3 framework of speed of purpose. And we can teach this to you. You can read the book, Speed of Purpose. We haven't done it on Audible yet. We just haven't got the time. We will, but it's available on Amazon and Kindle and from Universal Publishers
Right. Right.
and elsewhere.
Yep. Yep. Anywhere that you can buy a book online should be able to
It's
get it.
relatively unknown, unlike Gapology, but it is of great significance. And we found that once teams and leaders knew Gapology, that to give them speed of purpose just amplified their work even more.
Mhm.
You know, when you layer Gapology in with speed of purpose, it's wow.
Right.
They
Right.
work
Yeah.
together beautifully.
Yeah. And that is one of the interesting things, Mark, how all this kind of came together. How Gapology was first, but then we learned from teaching that. We learned from our clients and people we worked with. We built Imbar, and then we were teaching that, and we sort of learned from that. And the combination of Gapology and Imbar, Speed of Purpose came from that. So all these things sort of built on top of each other, and they really do work really well together.
Yeah, and a number of organizations that we've worked with have implemented all three, and
Mhm.
all of them have been very successful.
Yeah.
It generally does start with Gapology, which sort of forms the foundation, and then the leaders really need Imbar. The team may need Imbar. The organization may need an Imbar, and then from that, really, speed of purpose comes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is this works, we present it sort of at the organizational level, but this can work for work teams as well. So if you lead a small work group, even if your organization as a whole doesn't have a clear purpose, certainly bubble that up, but you can establish that for your work group as well.
Yeah, and once you're the top performing work group, they'll want to know why, and you can teach the organization
Yeah.
speed of purpose. One of our funniest scenarios was we were working with a retailer, and we tended to spend all our time out on the sales floor, but we decided to go in the back room and watch the truck unload process and bringing the product to the floor to where the customer could purchase it. And we found a group that had a purpose around that, and they really believed that by putting the product out on the floor, they were doing a great service to their customers because they sold out on things very quickly, and the quicker they processed the truck and got it on the shelf, their customer benefited by buying the product. And they took great pride in that, and their purpose was all wrapped around the speed to get the product out of the box and on the shelf, if that makes sense. And so we measured their number of cartons per man hour, and then we compared that with the same company, the same product, but a team that didn't have that purpose. And the difference was the team that had purpose was able to achieve 58 cartons per man hour, taken out of the box and put out on the shelf. And the team without purpose achieved 11 cartons per man hour. So there was a 500%, by the way, Brian, difference between the team with purpose and the team without, with the same product, the same customer, everything, it just changed everything. So this team that, unloading boxes, I go to Costco and I'm just amazed by the productivity level of the Costco where I live, and how I try and go at 9 a.m. when they open, and it's like, wow, they've been working all night, and this store is full, and it is organized, and it is impressive, and there's lots of new stuff out here, and it's just amazing. And you think about others that just don't even come close. So there's that example, which just brought it home for us because we grew up in retail. And then that index card thing is great. As a leader, you think you've got purpose nailed? Just hand that index card to everybody without letting them know what's happening. Have them write it down, and we'll see how clear you've been. And it'll exemplify, or it'll amplify for you what you need to do or what you're doing well. The other thing I wanted to share with everybody is the starting point for Speed of Purpose. We often will have a group fill out a storyboard. Let me just walk them through the elements of that. It's pretty interesting. So we have you fill out a storyboard on your organization or your team. And the first piece is we are, and you fill in the blank. So you describe your team, your organization. You then go to we are best at. So what are you best at? And you fill that in. You then fill in our best people blank. And you want to describe there the behavior of your best people. So all of this starts coming together where if you don't have a purpose, you can start seeing it, because you may actually have one without knowing it. We then go to our customers say, and we want you to write down what your customers say about you as an organization. We then want you to explore your competitors. So you write down our competitors. Sometimes our competitors are doing things better than us. Don't shy away from that. Go observe it and understand it. It may be part of your purpose, and you just don't know it. They may have figured something out. You can certainly run with it. And then we go to our future. So we have those 6 things filled out in advance often of a Speed of Purpose workshop, just so we understand, if you don't have a purpose, what some of those elements might be. And those have been significant. So we are best at, our best people, our customers say, our competitors, and our future. And, like we said before, everywhere we've taken this, it worked. It varied, but it worked. And with a foundation of Gapology, it exploded. So what are your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, I'll also put images on the screen like I did for the last couple of podcasts. So for anybody that's watching this on the YouTube Gapology Guys channel, you'll be able to see the images that we described as we went through this in the storyboard that Mark just described as well. For those of you listening to the Gapology radio podcast, just the audio version, just try and pause and take notes there where you can. But we do invite you to join the channel on YouTube as well.
All right. Well, okay. Thank you, Brian. I look forward to next week.
All right. That sounds great, Mark. Thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.